Captain Jake Martinez stared at the endless field of floating rocks through the bridge windows of the horizon's edge. The asteroid field stretched for millions of miles in every direction, each rock tumbling slowly through space like forgotten memories. His crew had been surveying this dead zone for 3 weeks now, looking for rare minerals that might be worth something to their alien overlords. The Galactic Collective had given humanity this job because no other species wanted to. Do the boring work of mining asteroids in the middle of nowhere. Humans were considered good enough for manual labor, but not much else. Jake had been doing this kind of work for 15 years, ever since he graduated from the Human Defense Academy, and he knew his place in the galaxy. Lieutenant Commander Lisa. Park looked up from her science station with tired eyes. She had been running mineral scans for hours without finding anything valuable. The readings showed mostly common iron and silicon, nothing that would make their alien bosses happy. Lisa was one of the best science officers in the human fleet, but even her skills could not make worthless rocks into treasure. "Captain, I am picking up something strange on the far edge of the field," Lisa said as she adjusted her scanner controls. "There is a large metallic signature about 2 million miles to our starboard side. It does not match any natural mineral formations." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The readings showed a massive object buried inside one of the larger asteroids, but the metal composition was unlike anything he had seen before. "Could it be an alien ship?" "I do not think so," Lisa replied while running more detailed scans. "The metal is too old, and the energy signatures are completely dead. Whatever it has been out here for a very long time." Commander Tony Blake stepped forward from his security station. Tony was a big man with sharp eyes, who never trusted anything that seemed too easy. "Captain, we should be careful. The Collective does not like it when we find things we are not supposed to find. Remember what happened to the mining crew on Sector 7 when they discovered those ancient ruins?" Jake remembered that story well. The entire crew had disappeared overnight, and the Collective claimed they were transferred to another assignment. Nobody ever saw them again. But something about this discovery felt different, like it was calling to him in a way he could not explain. "Set course for that asteroid," Jake ordered. "But keep our weapons ready and our engines warm. If this is a trap, I want to be able to run fast." The horizon's edge moved slowly through the asteroid field toward the mysterious signal. As they got closer, Lisa's scans revealed more details about the hidden object. It was definitely a ship, but not like any alien vessel in their databases. The design looked almost familiar, with smooth curves and angular sections that reminded Jake of something he had seen before. "Captain," Lisa said with excitement in her voice, "I think this might be human." "That is impossible," Tony said quickly. "Humans have never been this far into deep space. We only started exploring outside our home system 200 years ago, and the Collective has always controlled where we can go." But Lisa was already running comparison scans against human ship designs from their historical databases. "The hull composition matches Earth alloys from 400 years ago. The energy signature is consistent with human fusion reactors from that time period. Captain, I think we found one of the lost colony ships." Jake felt his heart beating faster. Every human child learned about the lost colony ships in school. During Earth's early expansion period before the Collective found humanity, several large ships had left Earth to establish colonies in distant star systems. Most of these ships were never heard from again, and everyone assumed they had been destroyed or lost in space. "Are you sure about this, Lisa?" Jake asked. "I am running the scans again now," she replied, while her fingers moved quickly over her control panel. "The ship is definitely human, and it appears to be mostly intact. There might even be databanks that survived all these years." Tony looked worried. "Captain, if this is really a human colony ship, the Collective is going to want to know about it immediately. They do not like it when humans find things from their past." Jake knew Tony was right, but something inside him wanted to explore the ship before reporting it to their alien masters. For his entire life, Humans had been told they were a young and primitive species that needed guidance from their betters. But if this ship was really 400 years old, it meant humans had been exploring space much longer than the collective claimed. "Lisa, can you scan for life signs?" Jake asked. "Already doing that," she replied. "No life signs, but the ship's computer core appears to be intact. If we can access their databanks, we might learn something about where they were going and what happened to them." Dr. Kate Williams spoke up from her medical station. Kate was quiet most of the time, but she was the best doctor in the human. Fleet and Jake trusted her judgment completely. "Captain, I would like to examine any human remains we might find on that ship. There could be important medical information that we have lost over the centuries." Jake made his decision. "Prepare a boarding party. Lisa, Tony, Kate, and I will go over to examine the ship. Sam, you have the bridge." Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez nodded from his engineering station. Sam was a good man who could fix anything that broke, and Jake knew he would keep the Horizon's Edge safe while they were gone. As they prepared their spacesuits and equipment, Jake could not shake the feeling that this discovery would change everything. The collective had always told humans that they were found drifting in space with primitive technology, rescued from their own incompetence and given a place in galactic society. But if humans had been exploring deep space 400 years ago, maybe that story was not completely true. The boarding shuttle carried them through the asteroid field to the ancient ship. As they got closer, Jake could see that the vessel was much larger than their own ship, with multiple sections and what looked like habitation modules for thousands of people. This was not just an exploration vessel, but a true colony ship designed to carry an entire population to a new world. Lisa's scans showed that the ship's hull had been breached in several places, probably by asteroid impacts over the centuries, but the central sections were still sealed and might contain valuable information. As they docked with the airlock, Jake wondered what secrets they would find inside. The ancient ship held the answers to questions that humanity had been asking for centuries, but Jake had no idea that those answers would soon change the fate of every human in the galaxy. The airlock hissed open, and Jake Martinez stepped into the ancient colony ship with his team behind him. Their helmet lights cut through the darkness as they moved down corridors that had been silent for 4 centuries. The air was thin but breathable, and their suits detected no dangerous gases or radiation. Lisa Park held her scanner in front of her as they walked through the ship. The reading showed that most of the vessel's systems were offline, but the central computer core was still intact and protected by emergency power cells that had somehow lasted all these years. "Captain, the ship's name is carved into this wall panel. It says New Horizon." Jake looked at the faded letters carved into the metal. New Horizon was one of the lost colony ships mentioned in Earth's historical records, launched in 2387 to establish a settlement in the Kepler system. According to the records, the ship had carried 15,000 colonists and had been lost without a trace. Dr. Kate Williams was examining what looked like a medical bay when she found the first bodies. They were human, preserved by the cold vacuum that had leaked into this section of the ship centuries ago, but something about them looked different from modern humans, though Kate could not say exactly what it was. "Captain, you need to see this," Kate called out. "These people do not look exactly like us. Their bone structure is slightly different, and their brains appear to be larger than normal." Tony Blake kept his weapon ready as they moved deeper into the ship. Years of security work had taught him to expect trouble, and something about this place made him nervous. The ship was too well preserved, and some of the technology looked more advanced than anything humans had today. They reached the central computer core after 20 minutes of walking through dark corridors. Lisa connected her portable scanner to the ancient computer system and began downloading whatever data she could recover. The process was slow, but gradually the computer began responding to her commands. "I am getting something," Lisa said with excitement. "The ship's logs are mostly intact, and there are personal records from the colonists. But, Captain, some of this information does not make sense with what we know about human history." The computer screen flickered to life and began displaying text files from the ship's database. Jake read over Lisa's shoulder as the records revealed the true story of the New Horizons journey. The colonists had not been fleeing Earth to find a new home, but had been searching for something specific in deep space. According to the logs, the colonists had been in contact with an alien race called the Primarchs, who had promised to share advanced knowledge with humanity. The Primarchs were described as ancient beings who had once ruled the galaxy but were now dying out. They wanted to pass their wisdom to a younger species before they disappeared forever. "This cannot be right," Tony said as he read the records. "The collective told us that humans were primitive when they found us. They said we barely had space travel and needed their help to survive. But the evidence was right there on the screen. The New Horizon had carried not just colonists, but also scientists and engineers who were working with Primarch technology. The ship's systems included devices that humans today could not build or even understand." Kate was still examining the preserved bodies when she made another discovery. "Captain, I need to run some tests, but I think these people had been genetically modified. Their DNA shows changes that are not natural, as if someone had deliberately altered their genetic code." Lisa found more files that explained what Kate had discovered. The Primarchs had not just shared technology with the human colonists, but had also given them genetic gifts that would allow their descendants to use advanced alien systems. The modifications were designed to activate slowly over many generations, becoming stronger with each new generation of children. "According to these records," Lisa said while reading from the computer, "the genetic changes were supposed to give humans abilities that other species do not have. Things like direct interface with computer systems, enhanced physical abilities, and even telepathic communication." Jake felt something strange happening as he listened to Lisa read the records. It was as if the information was awakening something inside his mind that had been sleeping his entire life. He could suddenly sense the emotions of his team members and could feel the ancient ship's computer systems calling to him. Tony noticed the change first. "Captain, are you feeling all right? Your eyes look different." Jake looked at his reflection in a dark computer screen and saw that Tony was right. His eyes seemed brighter somehow, and he could see details in the darkness that his helmet lights should not have revealed. "I think the genetic modifications are activating. Being on this ship and learning about our true history is somehow triggering the changes." Kate ran a quick medical scan on Jake with her portable equipment. "Captain, your brain activity is showing patterns I have never seen before. Your nervous system appears to be changing at the cellular level." Lisa suddenly stopped, reading and looked up with wide eyes. "I can hear the computer talking to me without using the speakers. It is showing me information directly in my mind." She placed her hands on the console and closed her eyes. The Primarchs hid these ships throughout the galaxy, waiting for humans to find them and learn the truth. The computer revealed that there were dozens of other lost colony ships scattered across space, all containing similar information and technology. The Primarchs had planned for humanity to eventually discover these ships and reclaim their true heritage as the inheritors of galactic civilization. But the records also contained a warning. The current rulers of the galaxy, the three species that formed the Galactic Collective, had discovered what the Primarchs were doing and had tried to stop them. They had hunted down and destroyed most of the Primarch race and had been actively suppressing human development for centuries to prevent them from accessing their genetic gifts. "The Collective has been using suppression fields around human colonies," Lisa said as she accessed more files. "They have been broadcasting energy patterns that prevent our genetic modifications from activating. That is why humans have remained primitive for so long." Kate ran scans on all of them and discovered that being away from human space and the suppression fields was allowing their dormant abilities to finally emerge. "We are all changing," she reported. "Our brains are developing new neural pathways, and our bodies are becoming stronger and faster." Tony tested his new abilities by lifting a heavy piece of equipment that normally would have required two people to move. This is incredible, but it also means we are in serious danger. If the collective learns what we have discovered, they will try to destroy us just like they destroyed the Primarchs. Jake made a decision that would change the course of human history. Instead of reporting their discovery to the collective as regulations required, he ordered his team to download all the information they could carry and return to human space immediately. They needed to share this knowledge with other humans and begin the process of awakening their species to its true potential. As they prepared to leave the ancient ship, Jake looked back at the computer core that had revealed so many secrets. He knew that this was only the beginning of a much larger story, and that humanity was about to discover powers that would reshape the entire galaxy. The Horizon's Edge traveled through hyperspace toward New Dallas Station, carrying the most important cargo in human history. Captain Jake Martinez sat in his command chair watching the stars blur past, but his mind was processing information at speeds that should have been impossible. The genetic changes were accelerating with each passing hour. Lisa Park had not slept for 2 days as she worked to decode the Primarch technology they had recovered from the New Horizon. Her enhanced mental abilities allowed her to understand alien computer systems that had puzzled human scientists for decades. She could see patterns in the data that revealed how the suppression fields worked and where they were located throughout human space. Dr. Kate Williams was running continuous medical scans on the crew and recording the changes happening to their bodies. Their reflexes were becoming faster, their strength was increasing, and their brains were developing new areas that seemed designed for direct interface with technology. But the most surprising discovery was that they could sense each other's thoughts and emotions when they concentrated. Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez had been having strange dreams about machines and technology ever since they left the ancient ship. In his dreams, he could see how alien devices worked and understand their purpose without any training or manuals. When he woke up, he found that he could repair systems on their ship in ways that should have been impossible. Commander Tony Blake was experiencing the most dramatic changes of all. His reflexes had become so fast that he could catch objects thrown at him without looking, and his awareness of his surroundings had expanded to an almost supernatural level. He could sense danger before it happened and predict the movements of other people with perfect accuracy. When they finally arrived at New Dallas Station, Jake knew they were walking into a situation that could end with all of them being arrested, or worse. Admiral Frank Cooper was a good man, but he followed regulations strictly and believed that cooperation with the Galactic Collective was humanity's only hope for survival. The station was a massive structure built around an asteroid, with docking bays for hundreds of ships and living quarters for over 1 million humans. It served as the headquarters for the human defense fleet and was one of the most important locations in human space. But Jake now knew that it was also surrounded by collective suppression fields that kept its population from developing their true abilities. Admiral Cooper met them in his office 30 minutes after they docked. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes who had spent his entire career trying to keep humanity safe in a galaxy that did not respect them. When Jake began explaining what they had discovered, the Admiral's first reaction was disbelief. "Captain Martinez, what you are describing sounds like fantasy," Admiral Cooper said while looking at the data files they had brought back. "The collective has been honest with us about our history. We were a primitive species when they found us, and they have helped us develop space travel and join galactic civilization. But Dr. Williams had brought medical evidence that was impossible to ignore." She showed the Admiral brain scans of the crew that revealed the new neural pathways developing in their minds and physical tests that proved their enhanced abilities were real and growing stronger. "Admiral, I can demonstrate these abilities right now," Lisa said as she approached the computer terminal in his office. Without touching the controls, she accessed the station's main database and began displaying information on the wall screens, using only her thoughts. Admiral Cooper stepped back in shock as Lisa showed him classified files that should have been impossible for her to access. "How are you doing that? Those files require command-level authorization codes. The genetic modifications allow us to interface directly with computer systems, Lisa explained. But this is only the beginning. According to the Primarch records, humans are capable of much more once we are free from the suppression fields. Tony demonstrated his enhanced reflexes by moving so fast that he seemed to disappear and reappear on the other side of the room. Sam showed how he could understand and modify alien technology without any training or tools. Kate revealed that she could sense the health and emotional state of everyone in the room just by looking at them. The evidence was overwhelming, and Admiral Cooper finally began to believe their incredible story. But when he understood the implications of what they had discovered, his expression became very serious. If this is all true, then the collective has been lying to us for centuries. They have been deliberately keeping us weak and dependent on them. Jake showed him the locations of suppression field generators throughout human space. The devices were hidden on space stations, planets, and even inside some of the ships that the collective had given to humanity. Every major human population center was surrounded by fields that prevented their genetic gifts from activating. "We need to disable these fields," Jake said. "Once humans are free from suppression, they will begin developing the abilities that the Primarchs gave us. We can become a true galactic power instead of just servants to alien masters." Admiral Waugh. Cooper understood that such an action would be seen as rebellion by the collective, and that humanity was not strong enough to fight a war against 3 major alien species. But the data from the ancient ship suggested that awakened humans might have capabilities that could level the playing field. "If we do this, there is no going back," the Admiral said. "The collective will see it as an act of war, and they have the power to destroy every human world." But even as he spoke, changes were happening throughout human space. The crew of the Horizon's Edge was not the only group of humans who had traveled far from the suppression fields. Deep space miners, exploration teams, and long-range patrol ships were all beginning to experience the awakening as their genetic gifts activated in areas where the collective's influence was weak. On the mining world of New Colorado, Supervisor Carl Johnson found that he could process ore extraction calculations in his head faster than the station's computers. On the research station orbiting Kepler Prime, scientist Nina Foster discovered she could understand alien languages without translation software. Across the outer colonies, humans were developing abilities that they did not understand but could not ignore. Reports of these incidents were reaching New Dallas Station, and Admiral Cooper realized that the awakening was already happening whether they planned it or not. The choice was no longer whether to reveal humanity's true nature, but whether to guide the process or let it happen randomly. "We need to coordinate this carefully," the Admiral decided. "If humans are going to develop these abilities, we need to make sure they are prepared for what comes next. The collective will not allow us to become powerful enough to threaten their control." Jake volunteered to lead a secret mission to disable the suppression fields around key human colonies. With his enhanced abilities and the knowledge they had gained from the Primarch ship, he believed they could free humanity from centuries of artificial limitation. But they all knew that once the fields were disabled and humans began to awaken, across the galaxy there would be no hiding what they had become. The collective would respond with force, and humanity would face the greatest challenge in their history. The human rebellion began at exactly midnight Galactic Standard Time, when Jake Martinez and his team struck the first suppression field generator on Titan Station. Using their enhanced abilities, they moved through the alien facility like shadows, disabling security systems and guards without raising any alarms. Lisa Park interfaced directly with the generator's control system and shut it down permanently. Within hours of the field's deactivation, the 30,000 humans living on Titan Station began experiencing the awakening. Factory worker Dan Lewis found that he could operate complex machinery with his thoughts alone. Nurse Amy Bell discovered she could diagnose medical conditions by touching patients. Ship pilot Grace Thompson realized she could navigate hyperspace. Without computer assistance, using an intuitive understanding of space that surpassed any alien technology. But the awakening was not happening quietly. Across human space, similar operations were taking place as teams of awakened humans struck suppression facilities on dozens of worlds and stations. Admiral Cooper had authorized Operation Breakthrough, a coordinated assault on every suppression field generator in human territory. The Galactic Collective's response was swift and brutal. Vorthak. Commander Jextal led a fleet of crystal ships toward human space, with orders to restore control by any means necessary. The Vorthak were crystalline beings who communicated through harmonic frequencies and believed that order was the highest virtue in the universe. They saw the human rebellion as chaos that needed to be eliminated immediately. On New Pittsburgh, the industrial world that supplied much of humanity's manufactured goods, Supervisor Carl Johnson was leading his workers in converting their factories into weapon production facilities. Their awakened minds could understand alien technology well enough to build ships and weapons that matched or exceeded collective standards. Within days, they had produced a fleet of human warships unlike anything seen before. The first major battle of the war took place at Kepler Station, where Commander Tony Blake led a small human force against a much larger Vorthak fleet. The aliens expected an easy victory against primitive human ships, but they discovered that awakened humans fought with abilities that defied all tactical calculations. Tony's enhanced awareness allowed him to predict enemy movements before they happened. He could sense the intentions of alien commanders and counter their strategies before they were implemented. His ships moved through space with impossible precision, striking weak points in enemy vessels that their own sensors could not detect. Lieutenant Amy Martinez, Jake's daughter, commanded her own ship in the battle and demonstrated tactical brilliance that shocked both human and alien observers. Her ability to process multiple battlefield scenarios simultaneously made her nearly unbeatable in combat. She could coordinate the movements of dozens of ships, while simultaneously targeting enemy weak points and predicting their responses. But the most surprising moment came when the human ships began using Primarch technology that they had learned to replicate. Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez had unlocked secrets from the ancient ship's database that allowed humans to build weapons that fired concentrated energy beams capable of cutting through any known armor. The Vorthak fleet found themselves facing opponents whose technology was superior to their own. The battle ended with the complete destruction of the alien force. But more importantly, it proved to the galaxy that humanity had become a power that could not be ignored. News of the victory spread quickly through both human and alien communication networks, inspiring awakened humans while terrifying their former masters. Dr. Kate Williams made a crucial discovery during her continued analysis of human genetic changes. She found that the Primarchs had not just given humans individual abilities, but had embedded them with something much more powerful. Humans could share their enhanced capabilities through mental connections, allowing them to work together in ways that no other species could match. On the research station above Earth's moon, historian Dr. Ben Clark was studying captured collective archives and discovered the full truth about the Primarchs. They had been the original rulers of the galaxy millions of years ago, a species so advanced that they had evolved beyond physical form. Before disappearing, they had chosen humanity as their inheritors specifically because humans possessed the genetic flexibility to absorb abilities from multiple species lines. The three major powers of the collective realized that they were facing an existential threat. The Vorthak Empire, the Zalani Swarm, and the Astral Dominion had maintained their control of the galaxy for thousands of years, by ensuring that no single species could challenge their combined power. But awakened humanity represented something they had never encountered before. The Zalani were a hive-minded insect species that operated as a single consciousness spread across billions of individual bodies. They attempted to assimilate awakened humans by capturing several colonies, but, discovered that human minds could not be absorbed into their collective. Instead, the humans began converting Zilani drones to their cause through something the aliens could not understand or defend against. The human prisoners talked to their captors about concepts like individual freedom, personal choice, and hope for a better future. These ideas spread through the Zilani hive mind like a virus, causing thousands of drones to break free from collective control and join the human rebellion. The Zilani queen was forced to abandon the assimilation attempt when entire sections of her swarm began thinking independently. The astral dominion, beings of pure energy who existed in a higher dimensional space, tried to attack human worlds directly by possessing their technology and turning it against them. But awakened humans could detect and resist their influence in ways that other species could not. Lisa Park developed techniques for shielding human minds from energy-based attacks, and soon entire human fleets were immune to astral manipulation. Engineer Sam Rodriguez achieved the breakthrough that would change everything when he successfully reverse-engineered Primarch Stargate technology. The ancient transportation system allowed instantaneous travel across the galaxy without the need for hyperspace jumps or long voyages. Suddenly, human forces could appear anywhere in the galaxy without warning. The first use of the Stargate system was a coordinated strike against collective military bases across 3 star systems simultaneously. Human fleets appeared out of nowhere, destroyed their targets, and disappeared before enemy reinforcements could arrive. The psychological impact was enormous, as no species in the galaxy had possessed such mobility since the Primarchs themselves. But the most significant change was happening among the awakened humans themselves. As their abilities grew stronger, they began to understand that they were not just developing individual powers, but were becoming part of something larger. The genetic memories embedded by the Primarchs were awakening, giving them access to knowledge and wisdom from thousands of extinct species. Jake Martinez stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching reports come in from across human space. Every day brought news of new abilities manifesting among their people, new technologies being developed, and new victories against collective forces. But he also knew that their enemies would not give up easily. The 3 major powers were preparing for a final confrontation that would determine the future of the galaxy. They were gathering their combined fleets for an assault that would either destroy humanity completely or establish them as the new dominant force in galactic civilization. The real war was just beginning. The final battle for galactic freedom began at the ancient Primarch homeworld, a dead planet at the center of the galaxy where the original rulers had once built their greatest cities. The Galactic Collective had chosen this location for their last stand, believing that the symbolic victory of destroying humanity at the birthplace of their genetic gifts would break the spirit of the rebellion. Captain Jake Martinez led the largest human fleet ever assembled through the Stargate network, toward the battle that would decide everything. His flagship carried awakened humans from every colony and station, their combined mental abilities creating a network of shared consciousness that allowed perfect coordination between thousands of ships. The collective fleet was massive beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Vorthak crystal ships stretched across space like a glittering wall of death, their harmonic weapons capable of shattering planets. Zilani bioships swarmed in perfect formation, their living hulls pulsing with aggressive energy. Astral Dominion vessels flickered in and out of dimensional space, preparing to strike from directions that normal physics could not predict. But as the human fleet approached the ancient world, something unexpected happened. The planet itself began to respond to their presence, ancient structures rising from beneath centuries of dust and debris. The Primarchs had not disappeared completely, but had evolved beyond physical form and had been waiting for humanity to mature enough to inherit their full legacy. Dr. Kate Williams felt the change first as waves of energy washed over the human fleet. The genetic modifications that had been slowly awakening in human DNA suddenly accelerated beyond anything they had experienced before. Every human in the fleet felt their consciousness expanding, their abilities growing exponentially as the Primarchs shared their complete inheritance. Lisa Park's mind merged with the computer systems of every human ship simultaneously, creating a fleet that operated as a single intelligent organism. She could see through 10,000 sensors at once and coordinate movements with precision that no individual consciousness could achieve. The human fleet began moving in patterns that seemed to dance through space, avoiding enemy fire while striking with devastating accuracy. Commander Tony Blake found that his enhanced awareness had grown to encompass the entire battlefield. He could sense the fear and confusion of alien commanders as they realized they were facing opponents who fought with the combined wisdom of every species that had ever lived. His tactical predictions became so accurate that he was essentially seeing the future of the battle before it happened. The Vorthak launched their first attack with confidence, sending waves of crystal ships toward the human formation with weapons that could destroy entire fleets. But the human ships moved like water, flowing around the attacks while their return fire found weak points in crystal armor that should not have existed. The Primarch knowledge flowing through their minds revealed secrets about every alien technology in the galaxy. Chief Engineer Sam Rodriguez achieved the impossible when he used Stargate technology not just for transportation, but as a weapon. Human ships began opening portals inside enemy vessels, delivering destruction directly to their most vulnerable systems. Entire sections of the collective fleet simply vanished as their ships were torn apart by dimensional rifts. The Zalani swarm tried to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers, sending billions of bioships in coordinated waves that should have crushed any opposition. But Lieutenant Amy Martinez had evolved beyond individual tactical thinking and was now operating as part of a collective human consciousness that could process information faster than the Zalani hive mind itself. The human fleet began turning the Zalani's own tactics against them, using swarm formations that were more efficient and deadly than anything the insect species had developed. Worse for the Zalani, human ideas about individual freedom continued to spread through their ranks, causing more drones to break away from the collective and join the human cause. The Astral Dominion made their move by attempting to possess the minds of human commanders, but they discovered that awakened human consciousness was protected by genetic safeguards that the Primarchs had built into their DNA. Instead of controlling human minds, the energy beings found themselves being drawn into the expanding human awareness network. Dr. Williams watched in amazement as the astral entities began experiencing individual consciousness for the first time in their existence. The concept of personal identity and free will was as infectious to them as freedom had been to the Zalani drones. Entire astral fleets stopped fighting as their crews struggled to understand what it meant to be separate individuals rather than faceless parts of a greater whole. But the true turning point came when the Primarchs themselves manifested on the battlefield. They had not died out as everyone believed, but had transcended physical existence and become beings of pure consciousness. They appeared as pillars of light that stretched from the planet's surface into space, and their presence completed the transformation of human genetic potential. Jake Martinez felt his awareness expand beyond his individual identity as he became part of something greater than any single consciousness. He was still himself, but he was also connected to every awakened human in the galaxy, sharing their knowledge, their strength, and their determination to create a better future. The combined human consciousness reached out across the galaxy and began healing the damage that centuries of oppression had caused. On worlds that had been strip-mined by the collective, the land began to regenerate. Slave species that had been held in bondage for thousands of years felt hope stirring in their hearts as human thoughts of freedom reached them through space itself. The three collective powers realized that they were not just losing a military battle, but were facing the transformation of galactic civilization itself. Their systems of control and domination were crumbling as the ideas that humanity represented spread to every corner of known space. Admiral Cooper, watching from New Dallas Station, saw reports flooding in from across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies for millennia were laying down their weapons and working together. Worlds that had been barren for centuries were blooming with new life. The galaxy was healing from wounds that were so old that most beings had forgotten they existed. The battle ended not with the destruction of the collective fleets, but with their voluntary surrender. Faced with opponents who fought not for conquest, but for the liberation of all conscious beings, the alien commanders found that they could no longer justify their actions even to themselves. In the aftermath, humanity established a new galactic government based on cooperation rather than domination. Every species was given the freedom to develop their full potential without interference from others. The former slave races rejoiced as they experienced true independence for the first time in their histories. Jake Martinez stood on the observation deck of the orbital city that now surrounded the Primarch homeworld, watching ships from dozens of species working together to build a better galaxy. Children from many worlds played together in the gardens below, their natural abilities enhanced by the freedom to grow and learn without artificial limitations. The age of galactic supremacy based on oppression had ended, replaced by an era where all conscious beings could reach their full potential. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy, but had liberated it, fulfilling the ancient promise that the Primarchs had made so long ago. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, as if the universe itself was celebrating the dawn of a new age of freedom and hope.